Jonathan woke with the mother of all headaches. His marriage was over. His wife was gone, sleeping in the arms of another man, as she had been doing for over a year. He made it to the bathroom and climbed under the shower, letting the cold water wake him until it got warm enough for comfort. He washed, dried off, and stood in front of the mirror, appraising himself. She was at least partially right. His hair, cheaply cut at the barber, was thinning on top and bare on the crown. His belly was bigger than he'd like, wearing a size 42 waist instead of the 34 he'd graduated with. He looked old and tired, like the middle-aged men he'd laughed at when he was young, sure he'd never let himself go like that. He lifted his arms, powerful still, not the arms of a middle-aged fat man. Manual labor took care of that. The belly has got to go. He turned his head, examining his hair from different angles. Searching under the sink, he found the old clippers from when he'd worn a beard for a few months. She'd never liked it, and he capitulated, shaving it. 5 minutes later, Jonathan had his razor out and he smiled at his own appearance, half a can of shaving cream making his head a white chia pet. He was new to this, and it took a couple of passes before he got it right. Better. Not good, but better. Leaning closer to the mirror, he plucked 2 stray eyebrow hairs that seemed to have a mind of their own. The little cuticle scissors took care of the nostril hairs that unfortunately grew faster than those on the top of his head. He was purposefully avoiding any thoughts about what to do about his situation. Would he take her back? Could he stand being married to a woman who had cast their marriage aside so cavalierly? Cuck him for a year, confessed without guilt or remorse, then walked out to do it again? Forget her words. Actions speak louder, and hers screamed. There was no accepting that. None. Maybe a one-time accidental slip-up, but an ongoing affair with a man she claimed she loved? That she threw in his face, insisting that he accepted, or she'd destroy his life. She wasn't perfect either. She was carrying at least 20 more pounds since the birth of their youngest. 34 years old and her jugs were already starting to sag. Her hair wasn't the full shining glorious mane it had once been. She now wore it short, claiming it was easier to take care of. Not that he had any say in the matter. She hadn't cared about his opinion in years. 2, to be precise. Jonathan rubbed his chin and decided against shaving. He'd always liked his beard. No reason he couldn't wear one now. He examined his wardrobe, mostly older clothing since he didn't like to spend money on himself when he could spend it on his family. He found the least reprehensible articles he owned and dressed carefully to face the first day of the rest of his life. He wasn't a wealthy lawyer or a CEO, not some tricky CPA or an ex-Navy SEAL. He was a simple man, a diesel mechanic, but a man of action. As such, he drove down to the bank. It didn't take long to withdraw everything they had, not that it amounted to much. The overtime had helped, and they'd managed to accumulate nearly $7 grand. Before the overtime started, they'd been living little more than paycheck to paycheck. His annual bonuses and tax refunds were the only things that ever made improvements in their savings. He walked across the street and opened a new bank account, putting $1,000 in it. They were happy to have his business, and he earned a new toaster oven for his effort. The next order of business was harder. Jonathan walked into the Caterpillar dealership and hand-wrote his letter of resignation. His boss tried to talk him out of it, but Jonathan was determined. He explained the situation, that his wife was cheating on him and had been for over a year. He was not about to pay for her life with her new lover. He left with an agreement that if things changed, there'd be a place for him. By the time he'd left, he received a final paycheck, including vacation time. He had changed his health insurance, taking his wife off of it, and canceled his company life insurance. He could take out an independent policy protecting his children. Nothing for the 304. With the essentials taken care of, he headed home and started making calls. He canceled their single credit card. It wasn't difficult, it had a small limit, and they couldn't afford to build up debt, so it was paid off each month. Another call removed his wife from his cellular plan. Let her get her own. Maybe her boyfriend could pay for it. He realized he'd missed breakfast and lunch and was getting hungry. It had been a busy morning. Looking in the refrigerator, he was struck by the thought that Susan might not have been happy with his beer gut, but she certainly didn't help. There was nothing healthy to eat in the refrigerator. Soda, snacks, cold cuts, bacon, instant dinners. Beer, of course. No wonder both of them had put on the pounds. Jonathan scrambled up some eggs and made a sandwich out of them. Not the healthiest meal ever, but about the best he could do. The first steps complete, he was at a loss for what to do next. He had been reacting on instinct. Last night, his gut reaction was to get mad and get drunk, wallow in a little self-pity. The morning's reaction was to protect himself and stop supporting her. Now he wasn't sure what to do. It had been too much to absorb, and his mind was spinning. His wife was a cheating 304, and his marriage was over. He felt he couldn't handle this alone, and looking toward his family, he headed to his grandfather's house. Given a choice of talking to his grandpa Max or his mother, he would choose the old man. His mom was a woman, and at that moment, he was afraid she might take the 304's side for the sake of the family and the kids. Grandpa was a straight shooter and would at least give him an honest opinion. The septuagenarian was surprised to see his grandson on his doorstep. "John? What's with the new look?" Only Grandpa Max called him John. Jonathan self-consciously rubbed his smooth dome. "Grandpa, I need advice." Grandpa Schritter was a throwback, son of German immigrants. His father had carved a ranch out of the wilderness, and Grandpa had expanded it. A no-nonsense man with few friends, those he had were loyal with similar values. Strict with his children, rules were to be followed, or there would be consequences. His mother still talked about the time she wore a skirt that showed part of her knees, and she was whipped to tears. You might call him old-fashioned. His honesty and values were a core part of the ranch's growth and success. In a time of slick-talking lawyers and 50 pages contracts, Max Schritter's bond was his handshake. Uncle Lynn, the oldest, had taken over the ranch and lived in the large rambler about 100 yards from the old homestead. Raised as he was, he maintained his family's legacy of hard work, fairness, honesty, and loyalty to friends. It only took half an hour to get the story out. The old man had no patience for lying, deceit, and trickery, particularly not where family was involved. "How are you going to get rid of her?" was his only question. "It's not that simple. We have 3 kids. She's a cheating 304. You take the kids and throw her bum out." Jonathan had to smile. If only it was that easy. "It doesn't work that way anymore, Grandpa. The mothers almost always get the kids, especially since she's the caregiver. She gets half of everything, probably a lot more than that. I'll have to pay child care for 3 kids and maintenance to take care of her, since she can't work." "Won't work? You mean? Lazy bum cheating 304. Jonathan was taken aback by the old man's words. He rarely heard the old cuss swear. Not like that. Never in front of a woman or kids. Guess Jonathan was no longer a kid. "It's the law, Grandpa. I don't like it, but I suspect she's right about most of that. She figures she has me over a barrel and is going to force me to take my medicine. I don't believe this stack of manure you're spreading." He got up and reached for his old phone. Rotary dialer, built like a tank. Jonathan knew the phone was older than he was. "Bill? Max here. I need your expert opinion on something. How long before you can get your sorry bum off of that couch and over here?" His grandfather hung up after the short answer. "What's the plan?" "I want to get rid of the house. Can't afford it. I was hoping the kids and I could stay here. I'm not going to pay for her to live the good life with her son of a witch lover. Let her find somewhere to live." Jonathan knew they had no equity in the place, not after 2 years. It hit him. 2 years, the same time she started up with the bum wipe. Buy her the house she's begging for, and she starts an affair. Yeah, she really loved him, didn't she? His grandfather nodded. "No problem. Still have 4 empty rooms around here, filled with 50 years of junk. It'll be nice to have young blood around. Who's going to watch them while you're at work?" "I'm not going to work. Let her get her child support and alimony from an unemployed man. How you gonna get by?" "I was kind of hoping Uncle Lynn would let me work on the ranch, under the table. I've got experience, spent enough summers sweating here. He can pay you, and you can make sure the kids don't do without. Maybe I could take a token salary to pay my expenses. I don't figure on needing much, car insurance, food, clothing." His grandfather glared at him. "No token salary. A man lives under my roof. He works. We'll figure out a way to get around her getting any of your money. We'll have to see about some kind of caretaker for your kids." Jonathan heard the sound of a truck pulling into the driveway, the thump-thump-thump of the big diesel easily heard indoors. He stood to get the door, but Bill Wesley, one of his grandfather's oldest friends, walked in without knocking. "What's got your damn panties in a bunch, Max?" the newcomer asked. Another 20 minutes spent explaining the situation before Bill had enough. "Mostly true. She's likely to get the kids, and Sonny Boy will be expected to pay child support, keep up the mortgage, and support her cheatin' bum as well." "You said her lover gave her the advice?" "He's a lawyer." Jonathan nodded. "Big screw up there. That's not kosher. Could get him disbarred." "What do you know about him?" "Nothing. He's younger and a divorce lawyer. That's all I've got. That and apparently his wife died in an accident a couple of years ago. He was driving. Shit, can't be many of those around. Let me make a few calls and see what I can find out. He sat back, apparently concentrating. What have you done about finances? Emptied the accounts. Quit my job. Good. A lot of these new panty-waist lawyers will tell you to only take half. Bullshit. She'll get half eventually, but don't make it easy on the 304. Make her fight for it. Stay in control. Why'd you quit the job? I was working too much overtime. I'll be damned if I'm going to let the courts base their child support and alimony on 60-hour work weeks. Can't pay much if I'm broke and out of work. Any chance of you getting your boss to fire you instead of quitting? The courts will look a lot more kindly on that. You quit, they figure what you can afford on back history. You get fired, there's a lot more wiggle room. Jonathan smiled at the older man's analysis. Judge Bill Wesley had been district court judge longer than he could remember, only retiring a few years back. He'd know how things work, better than anybody. Her family's putting up with this crap? Doesn't sound like the Finnegans I know. They don't know yet. Nobody knows. She wants us to keep it secret. The hell you say? Damn 304 thinks she can hide her cheating ways, does she? He pulled what looked like a 10-year-old flip phone out of his pocket, and after searching through his contacts for a minute, he was waiting for the voice on the far end. Jimmy, Bill here. Got some hard news for you. I hate to be the one to tell you. No, nothing like that. Your granddaughter, Susan, married to the Fremont kid, she's cheating on him. No, I'm not kidding. No, didn't catch her or anything. She came out and told him last night, said she's been doing it for a year. She's not leaving, at least not according to her. She wants him to be good with it and allow her to keep screwing around. Hell, no, of course not. You think he's some kind of idiot? Yeah, I know. Tough to hear. Always was a selfish little witch. Not sure yet, but it ain't looking good. I thought you should know. Sorry to be the messenger. Sure, I'll tell him. Bill turned to Jonathan, the anger simmering behind his eyes. Broke her grandpa's heart. The 304 did. Nobody wants to think their kids would grow up to be like that. He's sorry, he says. Thanks. Damn, this is so hard to believe. His grandfather spoke up. You said she might be back today? You need to get home and control things. Make sure you make it damn clear you're not going along with what she's doing. No man in his right mind would. I think I've already done that. How are you going to deal with that monstrosity of a house you bought? Figure I'd let the bank take it. The old judge spoke up. If her name's on the deed, she can stop you. I don't know what else to do. For now, I'd say stay in the house. Control your finances and stop making payments. You never heard it from me, but you can hide your money. Stash cash. Drive up to Oklahoma and lose most of it in the Indian casinos. Take a couple of months, if you can stand it, get your ducks in a row, and get so far behind in your payments, there's no way out. Then you deal with her. You divorce her now, your bum is grass. Play her on your line a bit. Set your drag lightly. His grandfather looked him over. I hate to be the one to say it, but you've let yourself go, boy. You're going to be back on the market soon. You might take this time to get yourself ready. The stupid witch thinks you can't get a woman? Her box is gold-plated? Shit, there ain't nothing easier in the world. We'll have you back in the saddle in no time. Jonathan was a little sensitive on the subject. I'm not the only one who let themselves go. She's not perfect. The old man laughed. No, but that don't matter none. Decent-looking woman willing to spread her legs will always find someone to park between them. There's no denying she's still a fine-looking broad. More's the pity. I hope you ain't looking for that kind of relationship. Your kids are going to need a real woman, not some 304. I'm not ready to be dating, Grandpa. Besides, I'm still married. Not in spirit, you're not. She left you. Remember that. You had no choice in the matter. She has a new love now. Whatever you think you had is over. You don't owe her nothing. Hell, we can sit talking all day, but it ain't gonna get us nowhere. Head on home. I'll talk to Lynn about talking you on. Stop by tomorrow. We'll palaver some and see what Bill finds out. Jonathan returned home, feeling better. His feelings and reactions to his wife's ambush vindicated by his elders. There wasn't much to keep him busy, and he missed his family already. He wondered if he hadn't gone a little overboard quitting his job and closing out the accounts so quickly. Too late to worry over spilled milk. At least he felt a little more in control, not responding to whatever the witch insisted was her right. He looked through the refrigerator again, trying to figure out what he was going to eat. He saw the large pile of carry-out menus beside the refrigerator and looked at them in disgust. No wonder they had no money and were out of shape. He threw the TV dinners in the trash, along with the menus. When Susan hadn't called or shown up by 7 o'clock, he drove out to the supermarket and filled the basket with healthier options. When he got home, Susan was waiting for him. She looked at him and stepped back in shock. "Jonathan." His new appearance was unexpected. "Susan," he said calmly, taking the half-dozen bags of groceries he was carrying and heading for the kitchen. She followed. "I wanted to say I'm sorry for the way things turned out last night. None of that came out the way I wanted it to. I didn't mean to hurt you. Are you calm now? Sober? Can we talk like adults?" He shrugged. "Didn't matter how you said it. Knowing you'd thrown our marriage away for some young stud was going to hurt no matter what. You get some more great sex last night." She scolded herself again. Why had she brought up the sex? She knew that it would hurt him. With men, it was always about the sex. Why couldn't he understand that was the least of their problems? "Please, Jonathan. I shouldn't have said anything about sex. It was unconscionable. Making love to you is wonderful. That's not the issue." He laughed. "Not anymore it isn't, that's for sure. I wouldn't touch your cheating kitty with a 10-foot pole. What do you want, Susan?" His words shocked her. He'd never spoken to her like that. Not in 11 years of marriage. She felt her anger building, but tried to stay calm. She didn't need a repeat of the night before. "I want you to understand what I'm going through. This isn't easy for me. I didn't mean to fall in love with him. I only wanted to help him through a difficult time. It doesn't have to affect us at all. I love you, and I'll never leave you. Got it? Now you're in love with him. I understand. Thank you for that. Anything else you want to say? Maybe you'd like to open my chest, tear my heart out, and dance on it? Please, tell me how I'm inadequate, how I can't fulfill your needs, how I deserve to be treated like scum. I'm sure you've practiced lots of pointed little barbs to hurt me as much as you can. Have the whole damn conversation planned like the one you ambushed me with last night. No, Jonathan, I don't want to hurt you. I love you. You're my husband, the father of my children, my soulmate. I'll always love you. I just need to be there for him. Can't you understand? This is important to me, to us. So go to him. I have no desire to be in the same house as a cheating wife who doesn't want me. Go, please. Your presence here sickens me." She was crying. "I know you don't mean that. You're only trying to hurt me. I know you love me, and you'll come to see what's best for all of us, for the children. I'm going to bring them home tomorrow. They don't need to know about the problems we're having. Nobody needs to. This is between us. I expect if we have any issues, we can take them up in private. And what am I supposed to say when you're spending the night at Loverboy's? I don't do that. I never have, until last night, and I didn't intend to then. You scared me last night with your drunken, loudish behavior. I thought you might hurt me. I couldn't stay here. I've never done that before. Things can be just as they have been for the last year. I don't think so. I guess if you're waiting until tomorrow to pick them up, it means you'll be spending the night spreading your 304 legs for Loverboy again. Please don't call him that. He's a nice man. A good man. Right. The kind of man that can't find his own woman has to steal another man's wife. So nice. So good. So honorable. Go to him, already, before I throw up." She stood and slowly started walking away. "I'm going to let you have some time," she said. "I understand this comes as a shock to you. I wish there'd been an easier way to say it. I love you and never wanted to hurt you. You could tell me it's a lie, that my loving wife really isn't a cheating 304. Damn it, Jonathan. I'm not a 304. I can't believe you can say that. I'm not running around on you. This isn't some tawdry affair. I love the man. You calling me names and insulting me isn't helping anything. Are you trying to force me to divorce you and destroy your life? Did you love him the first time you spread your legs for him? When you broke your vows, abandoned your family, and became a cheating 304? Did you love him then?" She stood there, mouth gaping. He had a point. She remembered the guilt of that first time, coming home, crying in the shower until the water turned cold, telling Rich they could never do it again. She had cared for him, but love him? No, she hadn't loved him. She liked the way he made her feel needed. She turned and walked away, angry that he'd made her feel guilty for something that was good and right. He had needed her. Once she left, he had a hard time not going back to finish whatever was left of the Jim Beam. Instead, he made a salad, ate a skinless chicken breast, and went for a long walk. It didn't make him feel any better, but at least he didn't feel any worse. Jonathan got up with the alarm and was at his grandfather's by 8 a.m. Treat it like just another workday. He was surprised to find the old man's entire crew there, waiting. They were a tight-knit group. On the mantel, over the fireplace, was a picture of the five of them, dressed up in their green uniforms, Eagle Scouts, all. They've been best friends their entire lives. Hard to imagine in this day and age, having four best friends you could count on, always, for over 60 years. They had always faced trouble head-on as a team. Jonathan was lucky to have them on his side. He was led into the dining room, where a big farm breakfast was set out. 7 place settings. Jonathan looked around again and saw that his Uncle Lynn was there as well. He took his seat, and Bill's wife came out, offering coffee to those who wanted it. Behind her, Daryl's wife appeared, proudly bearing a plate of hot cakes a good 8 inches high, each as wide as the plate. Jonathan laughed. "There goes my diet," he said. Uncle Lynn stabbed a couple of the hot cakes and dropped them on Jonathan's plate. "Enjoy. Trust me, working as a ranch hand is going to burn off any calories you can get in your system. You're starting at the bottom." Along with Bill and his grandfather, 2 of the other men were retired. Daryl Smith had been a career Army officer and put in another dozen years as a civilian teaching after his retirement at 30 years as a bird colonel. He still did the occasional substitute teaching, but not more than a few weeks a year. James Crum was another of the old German immigrants and owned the ranch that butted up to Grandpa's on the south. His 2 sons ran it now, but he kept his hand in and attended all the cattle auctions religiously. A Vietnam War vet, he joined with Daryl, but left the service after 2 tours when his older brother died, leaving him in line to get the ranch. Carl Jenkins' family owned the first market in town and the hardware store. They'd been the well-to-do family, their livelihoods independent of the weather, the cost of feed, and the vagaries of the beef market. Apparently, they were all aware of his situation. Once the friendly chatter slowed, Bill started in. "First things first. We're behind you, 100%. I hope you don't mind, but our wives have been included in the conversation. They may be able to help with a woman's point of view. You had to know that once we got involved, there was no way of keeping them out of it." "Not a problem, sir. I understand." "Good. How much does your mother know?" he asked. "Nothing, yet. I haven't told anybody but you and Grandpa. She needs to know. She'll be mighty pissed off to find out her father and brother were told before she was." "Today? All right?" Jonathan nodded. Not a conversation he was looking forward to. "Fine. The scumsucker's name is Rich Patton. Worked as a paralegal at Bell and Richards. Apparently went back for his law degree after his wife's death. Big insurance payoff made it possible. Don't know if he's passed the bar yet. Sounds likely, though. Supposedly a pretty sharp guy and well-liked. Doesn't make him any less of a scumsucker. I know you don't want to hear it, but everyone at the law firm seems to know of your wife's involvement. The only thing they didn't know was that she was married. Apparently she's been hiding that tiny little fact." The ex-judge had the attention of the entire group while they dug into their breakfast. Jonathan noticed that the 4 older women were standing near the kitchen listening in. Jonathan gnawed on a piece of the thick-cut, apple-smoked bacon. "The only real question, before we start in, is if there's any chance at all of reconciliation. She's the mother of your children, 3, under the age of 10, right?" 5, 8, and 10, Jonathan said. His grandfather spoke up. "Do you want her back, boy? That's the big question. Can you overlook a year of cheating around and take her back?" "Maximilian," one of the women snapped. Jonathan recognized her as the judge's wife. "You have no business calling her a 304. We haven't heard her side of the story. Don't make this any more difficult than it is." The judge turned and faced his wife. "Judith, you said you'd keep out until you were asked your opinion. I'm not going to let you railroad him. She screwed up. We all know that. It's up to the boy if he wants to try to work things out for the sake of the family. Don't try to make her look any worse than she is. She's been screwing around with another man for a year, behind his back, and now wants him to accept that there's a new man in their lives. What else do you call a wife who has an affair for over a year and refuses to give it up? Confused? I don't know. It's up to them to work it out if they want to. Let him decide on his own." Jonathan spoke up. "She came over again last night. Didn't stay. Went back to her lover. No apologies, other than she says she didn't mean to hurt me. No intention of stopping her affair. Still threatening me. I can't accept that." The colonel spoke up for the first time. "What if she did give him up? Is it too late?" Jonathan took a few seconds to think that over. "I don't know. If she stopped it, realized how hurtful it was, if she was repentant, and I could believe it wouldn't happen again, then maybe." That's a lot of ifs for a maybe. You think there's any chance of that happening? Honestly? No. She says she loves him. She's in love with him. Says he's a great lover. I can't see my way around that. She had no call telling me about her love life with him. She was trying to hurt me. She threatened me with divorce and ruin, keeping my kids from me. She wants to cheat and laughs at the idea of my finding another woman and says if I did, she'd divorce me. As if that's fair. No, I want her out of my life. The colonel's wife, Diane, spoke up. That's not going to happen, Jonathan. She's the mother of your kids. Like it or not, she'll be in your life for the next 13 years at least, unless you plan on abandoning your children. They're my kids. My responsibility, Jonathan snapped. Understood. But they're hers too. You can divorce her, but if it's bitter, hurtful, you're going to have to live with that for the next couple of decades, Diane said. Hurtful? Like telling me she had an affair for a year, and he was a better lover than me? That she was keeping him whether I liked it or not, and if I caused any trouble she'd divorce me, make me pay, and laugh while I lived out of a cardboard box supporting her. Jonathan replied angrily. His grandfather stood up. Ladies, we invited you here to provide your advice and wisdom. You agreed to stay out of it until you were asked for your input. I don't think you're helping at the moment. Please, leave us alone for now, and we'll get you involved once he's made his decisions on how to move forward. There was a little grumbling, but the women moved out to the living room, leaving the men alone. What do you want, Jonathan? As simply as you can state it. I want her out. I want the kids. I don't want to support her. I don't want to be paying for her to have a good time with her lover. I want him to suffer if I can. Both of them, if I'm totally honest with myself. I'd like to break them up, maybe even make them hate each other. The older men looked at each other, and they all slowly started to grin. The colonel nodded. Good. We're all on the same page then. It's war. Battle lines are drawn. Now it's a matter of tactics. 3 hours of nonstop discussion and arguing had the basic plan in place. The women were brought in at that point, over lunch, and though they weren't happy with the decision, they supported it. Jonathan called his house and left a message. I won't be home tonight, he said. Tomorrow night either. I'll see you Sunday. Leaving the Eagles and their wives to deal with the first order of business, Jonathan headed for his mother's house, wanting to be there when she got off work. She greeted him in surprise at his new look. What brings you over? You could have called. I need to talk to you, Mom. It's important. She was crying only minutes into his explanation. No chance you'll take her back? She's the mother of your children, Jonathan. She's given you 11 good years. 9, really? That's when she started seeing her lover. Is divorce the only solution? Nobody wins in divorce. I don't see any other way, Mom. Honestly, she won't give him up. She loves him, she says. She's been screwing him for a year. I can't accept that. His mother nodded. It breaks my heart, baby. I have to tell you. Mine too. Believe me. What can I do? You need help watching the kids on the weekends or evenings. Right now, I'm staying in the house. I'm not starting the divorce yet. She may want it before long. I'm not going to help her, though. I'm not going to pay for her to be with her new love. I'm cutting her off. She wants money. She's going to have to get a job. I'll pay for the house and food and take care of the kids, but she's not getting a dime unless it's court-ordered. His mother nodded. She probably should get a job. She's going to need it once you two are through. I want you to go with me to talk to her parents. I don't want them watching the kids while she's out screwing around on me. I'm sure they wouldn't do that, his mother said anxiously. They've been doing it. The only question is, did they know why? 20 minutes later, they were knocking on the Finnegans' front door. Jonathan, you look so different, Susan's mother said. You've already missed them. Susan picked up the kids over an hour ago. Actually, I came to speak to you and Dad. Can we come in? Of course. Carolyn, nice to see you. Can I get you a drink? She called into the house. Terry, Jonathan and his mother are here. Soft drink would be nice, his mother said. Ginger ale. His mother nodded, and he said, I'll take the same. Thank you. They were seated in the living room when Brenda brought them their drinks, with Terry following close behind. Brenda sat down. Is something the matter? You don't look. Well, he nodded. I'd like you to stop covering for Susan while she's having her affair. Brenda acted like she'd been slapped, and Terry turned red. How the hell can you say something like that? Terry growled angrily. For a year, she's been seeing her lover, and you watch the kids while she does. I'd like you to stop that. I think it's beneath you to support her cheating on me. Brenda was the first to speak. That's ridiculous. She loves you and the kids. She's not having an affair. We certainly wouldn't cover for her if she was. She spent the last couple of nights at her lover's house while you watched the kids. She told me 2 nights ago she was in love with him and had been seeing him for the last year. She doesn't see him at night. She's home with her family. That means she sees him during the day. I doubt she takes the kids with her. Do you mean to tell me you haven't been watching our kids several times a week for the last year? Brenda sat with her mouth open. She said she was doing volunteer work at the battered women's shelter. Unless the scumsucker's beating her, the only thing battered is our marriage, Jonathan said. Terry looked distraught. She told you? She had an affair? Is having an affair. She refuses to give him up. She says she loves him, but she wants me to take care of her and the kids. I'll be damned if I'm going to be paying her to screw another man. Brenda was on the verge of tears. I can't believe it. I can believe she'd use us to cover for her cheating. I'd like you to please stop. You're helping her destroy our marriage. There's no hope for us as long as she's seeing him. Can you understand that? Terry's face was red. You have no fault in this, I suppose? Were you cheating on her? No. You have no cause to imply I was. My only fault was working too many hours to pay for that damn house she had to have and to keep her in new lingerie for her boyfriend. I may have let myself go a little, put on some pounds, worked too many hours, came home too tired to pay enough attention to her. Maybe. I don't see how that's any reason for her to take on a new lover for a year. Do you think that's right? His wife's father glared at him. I don't know what's right or wrong. I'm only hearing one side of the story. I'll save my judgment until I hear her side. Sure, I understand. Daddy's little girl can do no wrong. She couldn't be a cheating 304, could she? Stop watching the kids so she can screw around. Jonathan snapped. I think you should leave now, Terry growled angrily. That works for me. What kind of people cover for their daughter so she can be a cheating 304, abandoning her kids all the time to get screwed by some young guy? Who raises that kind of kid? Jonathan replied testily. Out! Terry screamed, his Irish temper in full bloom. Carolyn couldn't believe how belligerent it had become so quickly. She looked across at Brenda sorrowfully. Jonathan ignored them, headed for the door. Congratulations on raising a 304, Dad. Good job, he sniped as a parting shot. His mother snapped at him. How could you speak to them like that? I wanted him angry. She'll feel the brunt of it if she's been hiding it from them. If not, if they knew about it, then screw them, they deserve it. Jonathan headed north for the Oklahoma border. His mission, he'd been told, was to collect as many losing receipts as he could, get a hotel room for a couple nights, do a little gambling, and maybe get his ashes hauled. He felt no guilt over the idea of sleeping with another woman. The moment his wife confessed to her year-long affair and said she was going to keep seeing the scumsucker, their marriage was over. Now they were just marking time until the paperwork was done. His phone had started ringing within minutes of leaving town, but he'd turned it off before he even hit the state border. He figured the shit would be hitting the fan. Oh well, she made her bed, let her sleep in it. Not like the 304 wouldn't have company. He tried his luck at a couple of the tables, then hit the bar. It wasn't half an hour later that he was talking to a gorgeous woman who had a salve for his pain and was willing to rent it to him. He felt a fleeting pang of guilt, paying $400 for a woman. Like he was cheating. Then he laughed to himself. The witch had done it for a year. Why shouldn't he? At least he wasn't getting emotionally involved. Afterward, as he escorted her out of his room, he grinned. Damn, best sex I've had in years, he thought. The woman had the body of a goddess and gave him unlimited access. Best $400 he ever spent. For $100, the cheating 304 wife would never get her hands on. The following day, he wandered the casino for a while. He played a little craps and some poker, losing a couple of $100. He picked up dozens of receipts in the keno and sports betting rooms. Thousands of dollars worth. He'd taken in the show and found another good-looking woman who was more than happy to exchange her favors for a few $100. Not as young or pretty as the previous night's guest, she was closer to his age and very easygoing. He managed to get her for only $300 and got even more use out of her than he had the tall blonde the night before. He figured it had to last. He'd be damned if he would be having sex with his 304 of a wife anytime soon. It was so good, he tipped her an extra $50. She gave him a business card and asked him to look her up anytime he needed company. He saved it. Jonathan felt sated but lonely in the big bed that night. He thought about his wrecked marriage and all the things his wife had done with her younger, better lover. The witch. How could she do that to him? To her only children? How selfish could one person be? Giving up her marriage for some stranger screwing her. What kind of man would set out to steal another man's wife? Figures it would be a lawyer. Scum of the earth. He slept in the following morning, stood in front of the mirror, and cleaned up. He shaved his head, carefully checking for any rough spots, then applied the aftershave lotion. He trimmed his beard where it was coming in, neatening it. He almost didn't recognize the man in the mirror. Jonathan pulled into his driveway a little after noon. His wife's car was there, so he girded himself for battle. Walking into the house, the kids saw him first and swarmed him. They were laughing, wanting to touch his head, asking him where his hair was. Where had he been? Why didn't he come home? His wife was glaring at him, anger seething just below the surface. He laughed with the kids. Daddy had some business to take care of out of town. I'm back now, and I shouldn't have to go away again anytime soon. Susan had moved closer. We need to talk, dear, she whispered. Soon. I'd like to spend some time with my kids, now that they're not at your parents' house. Jonathan sat down in front of the TV with the kids, talking about their time with their grandparents. I bet you like staying with them, don't you? You get to see them a lot. A lot more than your other grandmother. A lot more, Cindy, the oldest, said. Grandma picks me and Joey up after summer school. The plot thickens, Jonathan thought. And she watches Nancy? Little Nancy nodded. Susan was standing over them. Jonathan, I'd really like to talk now, she said. I'd really like to have a faithful wife, Jonathan snapped. Looks like neither of us are going to get our wish. She stepped back as if he'd slapped her. Is this what you want? Hash it out here, now, in front of the kids, she hissed. No, I'll talk to you when I'm good and ready. It took you 2 years to talk to me. Now you're in some kind of big hurry, Jonathan told her, his cold eyes staring at her. She turned, sobbing, and ran into their bedroom. Why's Mom crying? Joey asked. Your mom's been very naughty. She knows she's in trouble, Jonathan explained. Did she break something? Nancy asked. Breaking something was the worst thing you could possibly do. Yes, she did, he answered. Her wedding vows. His heart. Their marriage. He spent a few more minutes with the kids, and braced himself for the coming confrontation. He entered the bedroom and closed the door behind him. How could you? Susan shrieked. I told you we didn't need to get my parents involved. I told you I didn't want you screwing around, Jonathan said calmly. Where the hell were you the last 2 nights? Out. Where were you the last 2 years? Where's out? What are you up to? None of your business anymore. Once you chose him over me, you lost any rights to ask me that. She tired of that line of argument. Why doesn't my phone work? I canceled your service. Just like I canceled your health insurance. Like I canceled your credit card. Why? Why would you do that? Are you so petty? I'm not going to be the one paying you to screw around on me. You want to be a 304, you do it on your own dime, Jonathan explained. I'm not a 304. I fell in love with another man. Are you so shallow, so selfish you can't see the difference? So I'm the selfish one? Because I want my wife to remember her wedding vows, to stay faithful to me and our children. Don't bring the kids into this. No, you did that. Getting rid of them every day so you could spend your time in bed with your lover. We didn't spend our time in bed. I took care of him. I helped him. He needed me. How exactly did you take care of him, Susan dearest? Don't be a smartass. I cooked. I did his laundry, cleaned up a little. I accompanied him out sometimes. We talked. He took time to talk with me. He understands me, doesn't ignore me for the television and beer. So you were his wife, cooking for him, while we ate carry-out. Talking with him, when you ignored me and abandoned your kids. You traded this family for another one. Fine. Let your other husband pay for your cell phone, for your insurance. Let him give you spending money, buy you nice clothes. Trade sex for money from the man you're not married to. You say you're not a 304. Why are you doing this? It doesn't have to be this way. We were happy for the last year, weren't we? I never made you do without. Why can't we go back to being that way? Don't you love me at all? Did you ever love me? She whined, tears glistening in her eyes. I didn't know you were a cheating 304 then. Now every time I see you, I picture you in the arms of your lover who gives you great sex. Your younger man. It's not about the sex, Jonathan. Not at all. You've got to get past that. Give your fragile ego a break. It's about the love and companionship. He cares for me, and I care for him. We love each other. The sex is only an expression of that love. I never said he was better than you. It's different, that's all. I still love you. I need him. That's fine. See him all you want. I don't care. But as long as you're seeing him, I'm not paying for it. He loves you. He can pay your way. Don't think he hasn't offered. He's rich. Not like you. Working day and night to barely keep a roof over our heads, she shrilled angrily, immediately regretting her words. Which is it, Susan? Is it love? Or are you simply looking to trade up? You're angry, 'Cause I work my bum off to give you the house you wanted, to take care of our children? I work 60 hours a week to make sure you have whatever you need. What do? You don't work. You don't take care of the kids. You hardly ever cook anymore. What do you do for this family that I'm busting my bum over? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that. I've always appreciated how hard you work for us. You just make me so angry. Why can't we have things the way they were? Stop seeing him. Be a loving, faithful wife and a good mother. Then we'll see if things can't be the way they were for a good 9 years before you threw your marriage away. I threw nothing away. I always was here for you. I only saw him when you were working and the kids were in school. I've always placed my family first. Like you did the 2 nights you spent at his house? When I was working. When the kids were at school. You drove me to him. You know you did. I was scared of you. The second night you begged me to go to him. I know, it's always my fault. You did nothing wrong. I didn't. I can't help the way I feel. Jonathan sighed. This is getting nowhere. Are you going to stop seeing him? No. Then you're on your own. This is my bedroom. You're welcome to stay here, but I'm not leaving. I'll continue to feed you when you're home, and I'll keep the car paid for and insured to make sure you can take care of the kids. Things are going to be tight around here. Why? What do you mean tight? I quit my job. It was interfering with my family too much. You quit your job? Without discussing it with me? Susan shrieked. You screwed another man? Without discussing it with me? Jonathan mocked her. That's not the same, she said. I know. It's much worse. I'll be working for Uncle Lynn. I won't be making near the money, but we can squeak by if we're careful. No more wasteful spending. I never waste money, she said. How much gas do you use, driving to Rich's house and your parents every day? How many lunches, coffee house meetups? It took a few seconds before she realized what he'd said. Who said his name was Rich? Richard Patton. Rich to his 304s. Paralegal and dilettante, living off the money he made killing his wife.